I loved working with golf clubs, you know, from back in my teen years, and I just would shape them, and I used to work in my garage and just do all little things and then go to the golf course, and I just worked on, and it was like a hobby. I said, man, this is fun doing it, you know. I was very fortunate that I took this hobby and I turned it into a livelihood. I'll never forget how I really got into it. Would have been in the later 60s. I was working this, and I remember this one fella said, son, if you don't love what you're doing, quit or you'll never be a success. So that's when I really got into learning all the ins and outs about a golf club. And people say, Vokey, you're a guru. I'm not a guru. I'm not a, people say, you're an engineer. I'm not. I thought an engineer was a fellow who drove a train and wore a funny hat. I said, I'm not. I'm just a golf guy. I just had a love, and I had a knack for working with the players. I was a great, what I call a listener and a note taker. I starved for a lot of years. Boy, I'll tell you. I remember back in my Lee Trevino days, and when I used to be working with Lee quite a bit, and I had this little old Datsun B210, 265,000 miles, and he's living in Palm Springs, and I used to drive over from Vista, California, drive over there in Trevino. You used to laugh at me. You drove that thing over the mountain? How did you ever get over the mountain driving that thing? So I was fortunate to come in contact, work in my early days with Lee, and then, of course, with Dave Stockton, which, funny, I ran into Dave yesterday down at Torrey Pines. It was awesome. He's one of the greatest short game players ever, along with Lee. And I remember Dave telling me all the time, he learned the game from the green back to 150 yards. He worked on that very hard in that part of his game, which I would recommend to a lot of young players. And then at Titleist, I really took a lot of those ideas with the help of a lot of people within Titleist. And I like to look on, it's never me, it's a team effort. I had a lot of good people working with me. At Titleist, I got the best R&D system. I got the PGA Tour players. And all the years of respect being out there with them. And they recognize, say, go up to them, let them try it, and they'll tell me the little ins and the outs, what it can and it can't do. Everybody is a little different. They have a little different technique, they have a little different style, so it requires them to have a little different option at the wedge, and I know that's what we've done. Just getting out there, watching a player hit the ball, listening by sight, watching the flight of the ball, watching just different sounds. These players, they'll tell you. They may not exactly tell you that the bounce is not right and don't give you a number, but they can tell you just by hitting, Bob, I don't like the flight. It's coming off a little low, okay? Or I'm digging it. The leading edge is trailing down. And knowing all those certain things, and I can help a player with sometimes give them a little hint. This is what the wedge is designed to do. This is why I want you to use the bounce. I want you to use the trailing edge. It's not just tour players. We're able to pass this on to the weekend golfer, which was my biggest thrill. It was nice to be able to say a player come up to me, and not just a player, somebody hollering over, oh, Mr. Vokey, I love your wedges. They're the best wedges I ever hit. And I said, they're Titleist wedges. I said, thank you very much for the support. But I mean, it's nice to be able to say that we've actually designed a golf club that the average weekend golfer can get the enjoyment of hitting shots. I call it the holy grail, a perfect wedge. It doesn't exist. One man's poison, the other man's cup of tea. You know, and I continue to work, and that's what makes my job more exciting. When I grew up with a wedge, they usually were always what I call it was basically get out of trouble type of club. The word was sand wedge. We call them lobbers now and sand wedge. I said the sand wedge, it's got to work, it's got to perform in the bunker. And that's one of my first things I really like to work with a player. But you get out of trouble club, you know? It's got to work, it's got to perform there. I call it another word like this, get out of jail club. Now all of a sudden these players right now, they're being so big, so strong, they're hitting the ball so far, and they're so talented. They want a wedge now. With a wedge now, they don't expect to just get out of trouble. They expect to hit a shot, boom, where they're either up and down or they're putting for a birdie or eagle. And so as a result, it's really evolved to more of a scoring club. First and foremost, it has to look good. Wedge to me is probably the toughest club to design. Every player, he puts it down, what does it look like in the address position? That's called profile. So I try to make a pleasing profile. It's got what I've tried to do. In essence, it's basically a profile. I call it teardrop look, a little higher in the toe area, and I call a pyre area a little shallower in the pyre area. So I spend a lot of my time giving it leading edge treatment and also sometimes toe and sometimes top line just to make it look good first off. And what I've done with the whole wedge, and we've worked hard at, is try to make it look like a complete set. You could pull any number out at any particular time. It looks, you could put them sitting down and say, wow, that's a neat series. Every major manufacturer makes the best clubs. They will all make a very good golf club. But I think at Titleist, what we have the people behind each product that are with a passion. It's a team effort. We all work together, and we all sort of cross-train each other, you know, with knowing about all of our product. And I think we all have a passion. We all love what we do. And going back before, if you don't love what you do, you know, you'll never be a success.